Welcome back to Jeff Randall Live. Now, it seems hardly a week goes by without another story about the decline of the British pub industry, coupled with the ongoing row over binge drinking, and you could be forgiven for thinking that the beer business is mired in gloom. But one company that's succeeding in spite of tough times is Britain's oldest brewer, Shepherd Neame. The family-run company makes 6 lagers and 22 ales, including Spitfire, which was created to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Battle of Britain. Across the south-east of England, it owns more than 350 pubs and hotels. Last year's annual profits rose 40% to more than £9 million. But earlier this month, the company was forced to defend itself against claims of racism over an advertisement featuring the comedy duo Armstrong and Miller. Well, joining me now is Jonathan Neame, Chief Executive of Shepherd Neame. Nice to see you. Many thanks for coming in. Now, despite all that gloom and doom stuff we keep hearing, just recently we've had reports from traditional brewers, Fuller's, Green King, yourselves, all doing very well. What's that telling us about the pub industry generally?
Well, it's perfectly true the industry's been through a difficult time in the last 5 years. There's been the sort of perfect storm of decline in demand for beer and rising costs driven by regulation, tax, etc. But certainly more traditional operators, we're all focusing on the offer, improving the offer, accommodation, food, beer quality, range, choice, value, etc. And the pub is a great sort of antidote to these economic times.
You don't need to tell me that, Jonathan. I'm already convinced.
Yeah. So actually, I think right now the industry feels as if it's on the sort of the dawn of a new era.
But do you get my point? There is a sort of a return to the traditional. You know,
Yeah.
Old ale brands, pubs being purveyors of fine food. This is how it used to be, and somehow the industry lost its way.
It certainly did lose its way, yes. I think the industry spent a long time recovering from the beer orders in the 1990s. There's a great game of pass the parcel in the industry. What people are focusing on now, at last, is the consumer, improving the offer, investing continuously, training, etc.
But also local brands. I mean, I think we all got sick of those global mass-produced beer brands.
Yes.
Did we not?
This is well. There are countervailing trends here, but across the world, what you're seeing at the moment is that there is great demand for niche brands, discovery brands, and companies like Shepherd Neame, which have a tiny market share, with our brands like Spitfire or our licensed brands like Asahi, Sam Adams. Actually, we're really well positioned, and it's a global trend. So on the export side, we're doing really well too.
Consumers have been under the cosh. Does it feel to you as if they're recovering?
Well, the winter's felt extremely long this year, but that's a weather factor. I definitely feel more optimistic about the second half of this year. There is pent-up demand out there. Obviously, the disposable income is still significantly less than it was in 2008 before the recession, so it's going to be a bumpy recovery. But fundamentally, people still want to go out. I think they're bored of recession. I think there's a psychological factor there. And if the circumstances are right, if they feel good in their lives, if they've got money, they're going to go out and spend, and hopefully on food, drink, staying away in our premises.
And what about this advertising tiff? You were ambushed by the forces of political correctness. Remind us what happened.
Well, we've just engaged with the comedy duo Armstrong and Miller. They have 2 very famous Spitfire characters, much loved on TV. They made a joke about the Irish and Poles in the Second World War in character. Name me a comedian that has never made a joke about the Irish. It sort of strikes me as rather ridiculous. So the complaints, of course, were
not about the British Spitfire pilots appearing.
The humour in this is about modern-day attitudes of modern-day youth, and those characters are in character in a Second World War situation. It's a joke about British youth and street language. It's not a joke about the Irish or the Poles. I think it's pretty ridiculous. There hasn't actually been a formal complaint. It's just the Advertising Standards Authority. So what are you going to do with your advertising after? We have many other adverts that we're going to run. Pressing on like a good Spitfire pilot. July the 1st, it'll be running on Sky. Now, what about this weather? It's been so miserable. I hate to mention it, but it does have an impact on your business. Huge impact, yes. It's extraordinary. The first May bank holiday, where the weather really warmed up for the first time, I think our sales that weekend were 30% up on the previous year. But March was pretty gloomy when it was very cold. And what about this freezing May and June we've had? People want Bovril and coffee, don't they? They don't want ice lagers and cold beers. That's right. But they do tend to go out to eat more when it's cold, and when it's warm they tend to drink more and eat less. So you've got sort of countervailing trends in there. Good. And if you had a single message to the Chancellor who's scratching his head over the spending review next week, what would it be? Well, I think the Chancellor is probably the most popular man in our industry at the moment, having cut the duty escalator. We love him. He recognised the growth potential and the jobs potential in our sector. He cut the duty, first duty cut since 1959, so we really like him.
Wow.
He did the right thing.
A man who likes the Chancellor. I suspect, Jonathan, you've been drinking too much of your own product. Nice to